You right now listening to this video might be winning a large chunk of silver for free. Two of you actually, so your chances just doubled. All you have to do is click one button, subscribe. Once we hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to jump out of an airplane and announce the two winners mid-flight with a GoPro attached to my helmet so you can celebrate winning while I'm literally falling out of the sky, hopefully not to my death. Make sure you don't miss it because this will be a beautifully horrific sight to see.
Connection established.
The silver rabbit hole runs very deep. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of controversy, a lot of corruption. I spend about an hour or two per day, give or take, looking at markets, looking at the dollar, what's affecting the price of these things, but also the economy, geopolitical tensions, because everything does come down to affecting the price of silver to some extent. Well, when you incorporate corruption, price manipulation, and all these other factors that shouldn't be really representing the price, but they do, things can get a little messy. Regardless, I do this research highlighting the main points per day, but right now there is so much going on, it's hard to choose what I want to incorporate in my videos, so I might have to start making multiple videos a day. For example, there's a great article/video that came out from Goldseek Radio Nugget, Aaron Brickman, Silver's Moment of Decision, talking about this key Bitcoin moment where price blasts to new record highs abruptly, or will it slowly or gradually go there? What's the better option? But not just that. There is so much. There's another article that came out yesterday, The Need for Chaos, talking about we are in a year of chaos, and it's mentioning how everything came together, but also how Americans want chaos and how this could affect the price of silver in a good way or potentially a bad way, given, the outcome of the election in November, but also how this year is going to be pushing prices to extreme levels, whether it's for good or bad. Miners seeing further dislocation. Gold pauses on rate outlooks, the gold to silver ratio, plus the physical demand shining bright, what the WGC or the World Gold Council reported, total gold demand in 2023, but also looking at the solar silver lining with EVs. I mean, there's just a lot of information. And, so when I'm doing my research, I try to incorporate the meat and potatoes, but there is a lot of other stuff happening behind the scenes that you guys really do need to be aware of. Ted Butler does a great job of exposing what's happening behind closed doors because people that aren't aware of COMEX corruption or the extent of it will look at silver and think nothing of it just because they're basing silver's value off of its spot price, which is heavily manipulated. He posted an article titled "Silver, a Sure Thing?" Meaning, is silver really going to quote-unquote explode? Or is all this hype true? Does it really have this much potential? And he breaks down information of why this is true. So if you're someone that is not aware of the full story, looking at, like Andy Schectman says, silver's price as price is the greatest tool of misdirection, then you're going to be at an extreme disadvantage compared to those that know the full story. This is much deeper than just speculation or conspiracy. Now, I want to cover this article today because this is a great thing to look at, especially with silver's prices. Right now it says it's $22.89. People might be on the fence. Maybe they're thinking about buying but aren't sure because silver hasn't done much. But some people might be thinking about selling. Maybe they bought at $30 in February 2021 during the Wall Street silver movement. Now they see their investment that they thought was going to explode from $27 to $2,700 with a misleading expectation or false expectation, which are resentments waiting to happen, just because they weren't also given the full context of how this happens, why it happens, and when it happens. There's a huge difference between silver exploding tomorrow, between silver exploding in the next couple of years, and what is the price when we talk about exploding. There's so much gray area or misinterpretation. If I make a video and it says silver is going to explode soon, one person might think that means next week, another person might think that means next year, but maybe I'm talking about in the next 2 or 3 years, which realistically, in my opinion, that's when it would happen. So as a content creator, I do need to make sure I'm very thorough when I mention this, and I have been very vocal. I don't think silver is going to quote unquote explode until the year 2025, 2026. I've been saying this since 2022. Go back, watch my videos. I've never said silver is going to explode tomorrow. That is extremely dangerous. That is extremely, extremely dangerous because you're investing off of this preconceived notion of always thinking your time's about to run out. Oh, I got to hurry up. Silver's about to explode. I got to spend all my money right now, right now. No, you have time. Now, the day and age we're living in, it could be a lot sooner, as some people think, which, it's highly likely that if it was going to happen abruptly nowadays, or like this article says, the year of chaos is more apparent or would make more sense for something like this to happen, but I still think it's going to be by the year 2026, and that's what a lot of other people say as well. So, regardless, I just wanted you guys to get some of that context of what's happening, why it's happening, and when I personally think when it's going to happen. Now, I want to cover this article because it is very thorough, and if you are a silver stacker, and you don't understand one of the biggest missing puzzle pieces, which is this COMEX price suppression, then you are at a huge disadvantage, and the prices won't make sense, and they never will make sense, and probably affect your success because you're not understanding that, one, COMEX corruption is real, it runs very deep, but the most important part that Ted Butler sheds a lot of light on is it won't last forever. This price suppression cannot go on forever. So let's jump into this article. Make sure you like the video if you like this video. Okay, I've contended for the past 40 years that silver has been manipulated and suppressed in price by means of excessive short selling on the COMEX, mostly by commercial traders, which happen to be mostly banks. As a result of this decades-long price suppression, the law of supply and demand has become artificially distorted. The low price has reduced supply in current production and increased demand, both industrial and investment, to the point where a wholesale physical shortage has emerged. A lot of people say, oh, there's plenty of silver, there's no shortage. These people don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done the research. Ted Butler's been talking about this for 40 years. I have been for the past 6, maybe. Regardless, the people that say, oh, there's no shortage, they are new stackers or someone that is in the mining industry, like Phillips Bakler, the CEO of Hecla Mining, that said at the silver's role in the green economy at that seminar from the Silver Institute, oh, there's plenty of silver, we have silver. No, it's either they're misleading it or they're just not educated. Anyways, shout out to David Morgan, which I talked to him on the phone the other day. We're going to schedule an interview with him. He's, one of the biggest voices in the silver world, and in my opinion, one of the most important, especially highlighting the silver shortage. He's written, letters to Elon Musk, open letters talking about the silver shortage and how this would affect his companies with Tesla and EV. Plus there's people like Mike Maloney that's written open letter to Elon Musk. But then you also have Ted Butler, you have Keith Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic Silver, Andy Scheckman, myself. A lot of people have been exposing this, but if you only have 6 or 7 people mentioning this, but you have some huge names trying to push this false narrative and people are listening, or people just aren't seeing these 6 people's videos or articles, then you might still have a huge missing puzzle piece that isn't making sense because you don't know the full story. So since a physical shortage is the most bullish circumstance possible in any commodity, right? Low supply, high demand pushes the price up. It stands to reason one should expect silver prices to climb sharply to address the deepening silver shortage. Thus, the high degree of bullishness I've expressed, but it's not enough to be extremely bullish. Proper appreciation must be given to the past 40 years of price suppression. To see where the price of silver is headed, one must understand the mechanics of the COMEX price suppression. The reason why I'm so bullish on silver at this time is because I think the big commercials won't add to short positions aggressively on the next silver rally. Knowing that they won't add aggressively to shorts someday is a certainty. And what makes it a certainty is the deepening physical supply and demand shortage. That's why I'm so bullish that I'm jumping out of my skin. Now, whether he thinks, he's obviously extremely bullish on silver. I've heard him say, and I don't want to, don't quote me on this, but he said, think of the highest price of silver that you can possibly imagine, that you'll believe, and multiply that times 10. And that's what silver will probably, like he said, he's very bullish. Now, I'm not saying that he's correct or, don't quote me on what he said, but he's one of the people that mentions silver truly could explode, and he gives the reasons behind it. Now, we don't live in a perfect world. This isn't going to happen like X, Y, Z, but we are heading there. And like he mentioned, where did he say it? He mentioned that it will happen, or knowing they won't add aggressively to short some days, a certainty, right? This is a certainty that someday this price suppression will come to an end. So we are getting close to the point where futures contract positioning on the COMEX, we are getting close to the point where futures contract positioning on the COMEX, which has been the sole determinant of price suppression for silver in the past 40 years, is about to run its course as the main price influence. Should the big commercial shorts on COMEX stand aside from aggressively adding to short positions, it means the game has changed and physical investment demand and industrial user inventory stockpiling will set prices. That's when you're really going to have to hold on to your hats. There's a growing evidence, and that's a good point, holding on to your hats, not only just talking about, if the price drops low, but when the price starts going high, you might sell at $40 thinking, it's going to stop there, but it could go up to $100. You might be selling way too early. But it's so hard to tell with something like silver that's been suppressed, because when it gets to $50, should you keep holding? Or should you sell because that's been the top? And since 1980 and 2011, there's a lot of resistance there. So the likelihood of it dropping back down from 50 again is, historically likely. But if we're talking about breaking above 50, it could go to 100 shortly after that. It wouldn't stay at 100 because that is extreme overbought territory, but it probably would go there very fast, especially with 40 plus years of resistance and the amount of people buying in, but also the fundamentals, which would be adding to this entire chaotic silver rabbit hole as well. So the standout by far, and I'm going to try to highlight some of these main parts. The growing evidence that a physical run on silver is already underway in that silver ETFs led by the SLV, largest, but also in other ETFs. This also involves PSLV with a withdrawal of 1.7 million ounces. There could be no doubt that silver is leaving the SLV and other silver ETFs. In the prior week, more than 6 million ounces came out of SLV. Now, this was written in September 2023. So, don't look at this as current event, but this all is still happening, and a lot has happened since then. And I could even cover some of his more up-to-date current articles, which I have in the past, but this is a good one, just mentioning, like this article says, is silver a sure thing? Now, the net result of 40 years of illegal speculative price determination and price suppression on the COMEX has resulted in a physical silver shortage for the first time in history. You can see the evidence of the shortage all around, and if you know where to look, like in the physical turnover in the COMEX silver warehouses and the bleeding of physical silver from silver ETFs. And at some point in the near future, physical shortage will become so pronounced that it will overwhelm the sole price determinant until now, paper positioning on the COMEX, which I've talked about. When you're looking at the fundamentals of supply and demand, someday, no matter how much suppression you could try to push on this or try to affect the price to whatever percentage, whether it is stock market volatility, dollar index, the fundamentals, Bitcoin, or even gold's price, silver will do what it does. It will take on a life of its own because it has completely different uses for those things. Now, we've even had the COMEX and the LBMA admit that their vaults are near empty. This is something that people look at, they hear this, but I don't even think they truly understand or digest or accept what that truly means. It's insane to think that we have the COMEX admitting that their reserves are, and I quote, near empty, but people are still saying, there's plenty of silver. Right. The code red market emergency that I started writing about in July is very much in full force and about to make its presence felt. The prospects of a price explosion are now better than ever, thanks to the unmistakable deepening physical shortage and the likely continued refusal of the 4 and 8 big shorts to add aggressively to short positions. That silver will explode in price in not too distant future looks like a sure thing. Don't let any last-minute price smashes scare you out of silver positions, as such rigged downdrafts would appear to be the tail end of a 40-year epic silver price manipulation. So for those longtime readers, yes, I've used this in a sure thing back in 2008 when silver was $9 and found itself close to $50 2.5 years later. And that's just proving, people that probably read it back then as well, it's silver sure thing. Oh, it's $9, right? The price of silver is $9. What is he talking about? Then 2.5 years later, silver's $50, right? In 2011. Same thing now. Oh, we're reading this article, it's $22, and then 2.5 years later, what's silver at? Right? The reality of people looking at silver and assuming it's not going to do anything because they're determining their perspective off of this false narrative, this desensitization of, oh, I bought silver at $25, so there's no way it could ever jump to 50 or 60 or 70. These people are crazy. They're just, they're silver pumpers, right? Even though silver was $50 only about a decade ago. Right? About, 12 years ago or whatever. People look at these things and it's like they're not accepting the truth that's right in front of our eyes. Let's say silver does, I hate using the word explode. Let's just say silver does hit its all-time high at 50. We could even say 50, even though it's much more valuable than that, looking at the uses for it and all the other things holding it back. But regardless, $50, right? So people, I feel, they are so desensitized that they expect the world to just keep turning the way it does, not understanding that we are living in a situation which, we're living, especially this year, in a situation that's never happened before. I don't even have to go into the BRICS nations and all that, but even just our monetary system or the de-dollarization or how the U.S. dollar is losing its world reserve status and everything happening with that. We're living in a situation where if let's say silver does explode even to $100, and you're looking back at today, me watching this video, let's say you're from the year 2026 or 2027, you look back at this video when silver's $22 and you say, wow, they really didn't see it, because at that point, 2027, silver's already exploded. You would look back and say, at this video and say, wow, he was right. It's blatantly obvious silver was about to. Why did nobody believe it? There was so much evidence. But since it hasn't happened yet, and you're doubting the evidence or the years upon years, decades upon decades of evidence, it's harder to see. Now, I don't want to be a silver pumper. It's not even about making money. Silver is the value itself. If silver does go up, it would be the dollar losing purchasing power weakening, not silver going up. And if silver does go to $100, $200, what would happen in the economy for that to happen? You might get a pretty penny, but at what cost? What would happen? What would the world be like for you in your day-to-day life if silver does get to $200? It might be bittersweet. And a lot of us know that. And that's why we stack, is because we know something inevitable is happening. So we need to prepare and get ready and preserve our wealth since we know what's happening. It's not, ooh, I'm about to get rich off silver, rubbing your hands together with the evil grin. No, it's more is we see all these red flags. This is very, very troubling and worrying. I have busted my ass for years to put this money in my bank, and I see what's happening to the banks. I literally saw SVB Bank fail last year, get bailed out. Who knows if they'll even get bailed in possibly in the near future. Regardless, I'm putting my money into something my fake money into something that holds its value. It's a preservation of wealth as the dollar collapses. Every fiat-based system's lasted around a century. The dollar is one of the longest lasting one. It's lost 98% of its purchasing power, and we're $34 trillion in debt. That type of statistic data is real, but people will look at it and still say, oh, silver, why put my money into silver? Why not just keep it in my bank? It's making interest, right? People are, I don't know what the word is, maybe just stubborn, maybe just can't accept the truth because that would shatter their entire world, which that's a coping mechanism that a lot of people probably go by, especially in today's times. But regardless, you got to wake up and you have to prepare. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Hope you enjoyed this video. There's so much stuff that I could have talked about, folks. Like, I didn't want to go more into the physical demand shining bright or showing this and technology. And, we can talk about that enough, but I really want to take a different approach on just looking at the reality of silver actually doing something. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, and especially if you want to win some silver. It's true. I will be jumping out of an airplane going skydiving in celebration of 100K, so let's get there. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.